Thanks for joining us here at Rose Quartz Mediumship podcast, where we simply adore anything and everything healing and metaphysically based. If you were in my reality when I first started on my training in the somatic world, you will know that I said over and over and over again that somatics made everything make sense for me. And I want to talk about that a little bit more deeply and in some more detail and kind of explain what I mean here. When I went through my somatic training, I then understood how sound healing actually worked. And I then understood how so much of the shamanic work that I'd been trained in actually worked. And there are so many similarities between shamanism and somatics. And when I could really understand how those two concepts integrated with each other, I understood myself and everything that I'd learned up until that point so much more deeply, which gave me the ability to be way more effective with all of the different forms of energy work that I do. Reiki, sound healing, shamanism, druidry. These are all trainings that I've completed that I really loved and saw so much value in. But when I understood how the nervous system really works, I then understood how these techniques, these ancient forms of wisdom, worked. And being able to hold both the ancient wisdom and the science, the modern day science, it all made everything make so much sense for me. And I want to give you an example connected to a shamanic technique called a soul retrieval. And I'm going to explain the somatic side of it, and then I'm going to explain the shamanic side of it. And you're going to see just how similar these two techniques are. So in the somatic world, when there is trauma, and trauma is not what happened to you, it's how you reacted to the traumatic event that was happening to you, right? So when we've experienced trauma, a part of us gets stuck in another time or space. And that's why we react with a specific trigger or a specific behavior or a specific pattern. And the work in the somatic world is to get to the trauma, to help the client reach the trauma that they experienced, the traumatic event, which sometimes is suppressed or repressed, right? When we can get to that experience, the details of that experience, the felt sense of that experience, and we can have a purge of survival energy that was stuck in our nervous system, that held that piece of us in another time and space, so that maybe when we're feeling rejected, we act like a 6-year-old because that's where the original trauma happened. Or you might see a child who had trauma at a very, very young age. As an adult, if they have not integrated that, if they had not had the purge of survival energy around that trauma, then you're going to see reflexes that were not integrated well from the time that they were really tiny, right? So you might see an extension in the person that is really something that happens in developmentally in very, very early life, okay? And it doesn't get integrated because there is a part of us that is stuck in another time and space. So in the somatic world, we guide a client into their own body to work with their own nervous system, to have a purge of survival energy that brings them into presence and releases these stories that they have created in their nervous system around that event that then become a much bigger story for them, right? So if we've had an experience when we're 6 that said that we are not enough, then that story gets held and carried in our nervous system that we are not enough until we purge that experience out of our nervous system. At which point in time, we have the ability to create a new story or a new truth that our body and our nervous system can hold, right? And that's how the healing happens. So now we're going to talk about a soul retrieval in the shamanic world. In the shamanic world, a shaman will work with a client. And the shaman will journey into that client's life and find traumatic experiences where there was soul fragmentation or soul loss, right? Which is essentially the exact same thing that I just explained in the somatic world. A part of you gets stuck in another time or space. So the shaman will journey in to the human experience of the client who they're working with, look at that trauma, see that trauma, bring that fragmented soul piece back to the client, blow it into the crown of their head, or the crown chakra, or sing it into the client, right? And that fragmented soul piece from the trauma is going to come in, and the shaman's job is to make sure that the client feels the shift in their body and in their nervous system as that fragmented soul piece lands. Right? Can you see the similarities here? In the somatic world, the facilitator, the somatic facilitator or practitioner is going to guide the client to go find their own trauma, purge, bring that piece of them back into presence, and then feel the shift inside of the body and the nervous system. In the shamanic world, the shaman is going to journey into the client's experience, bring back the fragmented soul piece, bring it into the client's body and nervous system, and make sure that they can feel the difference as that soul piece lands. Can you see the similarities? Shamans have been doing this work for forever. And the somatic world is doing very, very similar work, almost identical. In one case, the practitioner is the one who is finding the trauma. In the other case, the practitioner is guiding the client to find their own trauma inside of their own nervous system and body. But in both cases, we are taking a piece of us that is stuck in another time and space, that is fragmented, bringing it back into presence, and then feeling the integration of that piece of us that has been stuck in another time and space. It is almost identical. And one of the things that I have loved, absolutely loved, about the somatic training that I've been going through and continue to do, and continue to go through, is that it helps me to understand all of the pieces that need to go into the shamanic work to really ground that new story into the nervous system. And having both options where I can go in and find trauma that is stuck in another time and space for somebody. And I can also guide someone to go into themselves and find the piece of them that is stuck in another time and space, has been life-changing. Life-changing. Having both the somatic and the ancient wisdom, and being able to have the somatic wisdom, the ancient wisdom, and integrate them and move freely between them has been so freeing for me and has given me so many tools to work with when helping a client who wants to heal. In all healing realms, the client is responsible for their own healing, and the practitioner is in charge of supporting the client with that healing. And so often, we will roll our eyes at the ancient form of wisdom and say, that's just crazy talk. And yet, it is almost identical to what is now becoming mainstream medical intervention and has been found wildly effective compared to previous intervention for healing trauma. And I wanted to take a moment and pause and just bring our awareness to the ancient wisdom that we may have rolled our eyes at or looked the other way. And just really acknowledge with massive gratitude that this wisdom for deep healing has always been here. And now we have the science to be able to talk about it more clearly and more effectively. For people who have a hard time with trusting or surrendering into an ancient form of healing or an ancient form of wisdom. But that bridge that is happening right now between ancient forms of healing and the science behind working with the body and how much healing comes through somatic healing is so exciting for me because it blends the two worlds that I come from. My background is in physical therapy. I have a doctorate in physical therapy. I'm a level 2 somatic certified practitioner. I've also been through a multi-year druid training, a shamanic apprenticeship, Reiki master, death doula, life coach, all of the energy realm as well. And for me, the blending of these worlds is magic. Just like the human experience for me is magic. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this and really explore which one are you more comfortable with. Does the ancient form of healing and the ancient wisdom feel better to you? Does the scientific side and all of the proof that we have now about how to work with the body and the nervous system for healing feel more comfortable for you? Because ultimately, they're the same thing. And what it means is that we have such a clear pathway into deep, deep healing at this point in time. Because people who are comfortable on one path can have their path to healing. And people who are comfortable on another path can have their path to healing. But everybody has a path to healing. Whether you're in the camp of comfort around ancient wisdom or whether you're in the camp of comfort around modern scientific healing. There is so much proof of the healing that is almost identical. And so I just want to pause and show massive gratitude for all of the ancient wisdom that has been handed down century after century, healer after healer, and also massive gratitude for the practitioners who challenged the limiting beliefs inside of our medical profession and brought somatic healing into modern medicine in such a real and profound way. And I feel so grateful to be living in this time, in this space, where the opportunity for healing is everywhere. I hope that wherever it is that this podcast finds you, that you are having a beautiful morning, day, evening, or night.